Hey everybody, it's Sean Waters on behalf of the Wisdom Workshop. So excited to share this week's research and question with you. The question we're trying to answer is, what is the good life and how do we live it? And the first real question is, what is the good life? What constitutes a truly good or great human existence? I'm doing a lot of reading and research into this. I want to share what we came up with this week. It's related to a second question about Epicureanism and the idea that we may live and conduct practical experiments to achieve higher levels of pleasure, ideally reaching the highest levels of pleasure, which somehow are connected to the good life. So 2 questions I want to think about before we dive into our answers, and compare in the comments below or in your journal or notebook, wherever you're doing in your notes. What is the good life for a human being? If I had to ask you that question, what would you say the good life is? What comes to mind? All right, we have 3 things really that we came up with that were consistent across a lot of different accounts of the good life, and it also correspond with our experience and the whole methodology and philosophy behind the Wisdom Workshop. And drum roll, please. Purpose. This is interesting because this could be a lot of different things. Again, we're trying to get a universal theory here, and this also could be meaning. It could be a first principle. It could be a highest goal, that to which you are working towards, that there is a sense of trajectory, orientation, movement, meaning. And this could be a lot of different things for a lot of different people. Some examples of purposes might be simplicity, super interesting purpose. If I'm living to live a more simple, maybe happiness. A big one that we've been playing with here is joy. I'm going to put pleasure on there, connected to the question of what really is pleasurable. More than sex and heroin. Not that I've done heroin. But pleasure could mean a lot of different things. Love, enlightenment, salvation. There could be some religious connotations with this. I'm not sure whether or not we actually need purpose for a good life. This is an open question. I'm not as sure about this one as I am with the next 2 that we're going to go over, but I have a strong suspicion that we do need a purpose for the good life. Where that comes from, a really good question. Number 2. Time in flow states. This is Jim Collins' answer, and that's lifted from his language. And I'm going to spin this a little bit and say this in another way. A flow state is a psychological state that's defined as when you are doing something that you have a moderate amount of experience and almost expertise in, enough that you can lose yourself in the process of what you're doing. Self-consciousness drops away. You become one with the activity that you are doing. You become one with the wave if you're surfing, or time flies. Children are often in flow states quite naturally, a sense of play. I'm going to expand this idea to include the sense of working on projects of worth. I'm going to say full engagement in projects of worth. full engagement in projects of worth. There's a sense of active engagement, and this is from a famous article from Susan Wolf on what makes a life meaningful. She says a meaningful life is a life where you are actively engaged. So you are doing things, you are engaged in projects that have worth. And that worth could mean different things, but for our purposes and our analysis, your time in flow states is connected to doing things, making things, engaging in projects of worth. It's a really amazing question what that would be, of what is actually worthwhile, especially considering the long scope of geologic time where we're basically all already gone. What is actually worthwhile? Is durability and lastingness a necessary requirement to be worthwhile? I don't think so. Maybe a quality of experience might be. And the third one, there's a big chunk of a human good life that we're missing. And that is, drum roll, time with people we love. People. George Valiant, who took up the longest running longitudinal study of human flourishing. They tracked, it went so long that it went through 3 lead researchers out of Harvard. They tracked a ton of these people from when they were really young, measuring their IQ, EQ, things that were going on with them. And the conclusion of that study, in the famous opening to a scientific paper in the social sciences, he said, "Happiness is love, full stop." That the one feature of good lives, so when people are about to die and they look back on their life, the one thing that they had in common was this idea that had relationships with other human beings that had a certain kind of quality to them. So, if we're going to live a good life according to our biology, and we're taking this lead from Aristotle, one of the world's first biologists as we understand it in 300 or so BC, understanding or asking what makes humans truly human, one of the things you could say about humans is that we are social, tribal animals, and being in groups where we feel like we are contributing and being contributed to, where we feel we're in with like-minded people who have similar purposes or pursuing similar projects of worth that we can join in because we also believe in those projects of worth, and we're doing those things because we love those people, maybe not because of it, but that's a part of it. This idea of friendships as a super interesting and important feature of what it means to live a good life. So that's what we came up with. Interestingly, that's what's not on this list. Money and basic security. Now, this could be a really big problem. And in fact, we might want to put Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I.e., we've got to be taken care of physically, nutritionally, so on and so forth, before we can work on, maybe this is all under self-actualization, before we can actualize the best of ourselves. Nonetheless, I found this definition really, really helpful for me in the last week in thinking about what and how I wanted to be, what and how I wanted to do to really engage with the projects that feel like they're worth something, which for me is connected to my purpose of a sense of work and play and bliss and joy, kind of reworking to get back to that inner child in myself where I just feel I'm having fun and playing. And so the more I'm kind of closer to that, interestingly, as my purpose, the more I'm engaged and actively engaged in projects that I hope have worth, and the more I'm eager to reach out to people I care about and spend time with them, surrounding these issues, but also just with them. So that's what I have. What's the good life for you? Put the comments in below if you like this. Subscribe. We're going to be making more videos. All right. Peace.